I needed something to increase my average. Yeah. Ready, Brian? I'd like to call this board meeting to order. Good morning, and would you please call the roll, clerk?
Supervisor Foy? Here. Supervisor Parks?
Here.
Supervisor Zaragoza? Here. Supervisor Long? And Supervisor Bennett?
Here. Supervisor Parks, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? We need a motion for the minutes of the meeting of February 25th.
So moved.
You got it?
It's been moved and seconded. We're ready to vote. An agenda review.
Thank you, Chair Bennett. Just one item, item number 11. That's a request to execute second extension of exclusive right to negotiate with Upside Investments. A comment letter has been received from Channel Islands Neighborhood Council, Oxnard Shores Neighborhood Council, which has been distributed and posted to the web. And that's it.
And item 7, Animal Services Department adopt a pet presentation. I'm going to move to 9 o'clock or 9:30, and it just depends on when she's able to be here, but either 9 o'clock or 9:30. Board members, anything else on the agenda? We need a motion to approve the agenda as modified.
So moved. Okay, Brian.
Been moved and seconded. We're ready to vote. And that controversial decision is done. We now have a moment of inspiration, and we have...
Mr. Chair, can I get one more vote on the agenda review?
There we go. Oh, okay. For the consent calendar, Supervisor Zaragoza just wants to pull and make comments about 11. Is that right? Okay. All right. When we get to the consent calendar, we'll do that. But we have, for our moment of inspiration, we have 2 foster parents that are in. We're trying to highlight our foster parents this year during moments of inspiration, and we have both of them here, and so that Don doesn't have to stand up with a child in his arms the whole time. We're going to start with Amanda Bowles, and then we also have Don Anderson. And Amanda, thank you, and we sure appreciate both of you guys, as busy as you are as foster parents, taking the time to come down this morning and kick our day off with some inspirational thoughts.
Thank you for having me. Orphans are easier to ignore before you know their names. They're easier to ignore before you see their faces. It's easier to pretend that they're not real before you hold them in your arms. But once you do, everything changes. David Platt. Each of our kids have a story of heartache and loss. It would have been easier to choose to ignore it. It would have been easy to pretend their stories do not matter. But my husband and I chose to see these kids, to love these kids as some see that they're hard to love. 1,460 days, 1,160 days, 547 days, and 42 days. These numbers represent the number of days my children have spent in an orphanage or in foster care. 1,460 days is how long our oldest spent in an orphanage in rural part of Ethiopia. Her story began when she was 5. Both her parents died within 1 day of each other and made her an orphan instantly. She then was sent to an orphanage with the promise of adoption and life in America. Unfortunately, she was considered older and would sit in an orphanage for 4 more years before getting to be adopted. Once in America, her family realized that adopting an older child was harder than they expected and quickly found her a new home. Because my husband and I have experience and knowledge of trauma and hard kids, the family asked us to take their child. Kasanet came to live with my husband and I almost 2 years ago. She is our strong-willed, brilliant, affectionate, and loving child. She will fight to save the world and one day change American laws and become president. Her story is one of endurance, perseverance, and resilience. The girl has changed the way I see the world. She has taught me to fight for what I love and care for. 1,160 days is the number of days Our sweet Cullen has been in foster care. Cullen came into foster care when he was 2 years old. Cullen is in care due to complications with his heart condition. He has been in 10 placements and has been bounced around more times than any 6-year-old should ever have to. He has spent the last 4 years wanting an adoptive family. We met Cullen exactly 1 year ago. We had no idea what to think. We walked up to this tiny red-headed boy, and he instantly began to tell us all about Spider-Man, and all I could think was, this was my child. Cullen moved into our home as an adoptive placement on April 26, 2014. Cullen is a changed kid. Once he knew we were adopting him and he was never moving again, his guard dropped. He changed. He was no longer angry. He no longer threw tantrums. He loved. I will never forget at a monthly social worker meeting looking over and seeing her staring at Cullen and our daughter Penelope, who was cuddling and watching TV. I asked if something was wrong, and with a confused look, she says, I've never seen Cullen show affection or love anyone else before. In a few short weeks, we get to give Cullen his wish to be adopted. Our not-so-tiny baby spent 547 days in foster care. She entered at the ripe age of 1 day old. Penelope spent 8 days in the NICU before being sent home to our dear friends. Our friends fostered her until she was 4 months old. Her case started to go towards adoption, and at the time they were not willing to adopt. They asked the county to have her moved to us, knowing we would like to adopt her. I will always remember her big brown eyes and her crazy head of hair, and the way she smiled on the day we met her. Penelope's case quickly moved to adoption, and when she was 17 months old, she officially became Penelope Jane Bowles. Last but not least, our little guy who joined our family 42 days ago. We got the privilege of picking him up from the hospital. We do not know his future with our family, but we are thankful that we get baby time right now. Although all our kids have faced some form of loss in their lives, their stories all end with love. It has been one of the greatest privileges to watch these children change before our eyes and learn what it's like to be in a family forever. And to be able to say the words, you are never moving again, to these kids. Thank you.
Wow.
There's a picture.
Oh, that's great. You know, Amanda, at the rate you're going, if we have you back in 6 months, there's going to be 10 kids in that picture, you know? I mean, think about a child at the age of 6 that had 10 placements already at the age of 6, and you ended that, that merry-go-round for him.
Yeah, every day he asks if it's his adoption day, which is in April.
Ah, wow. All right.
So he's really
Well,
excited.
thank your husband for us also, and we really appreciate the commitment. I mean, you talk about changing lives. This is really remarkable, So thank you very much
Thank
for what
you.
you're doing. All right. All right. Now we have Don Anderson. What a treat to have you come down here also.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. I
What
was
de-
looking
what
for the
department
red
are you
light.
with?
I was going to tell you that I'm the one that's used to turning on the red light, but But 3 years ago, my wife, Mary Beth, said that she was interested in doing foster care, and I said, you know what, I'll explore that idea with you. And as we began attending the licensing classes, and I realized this was something for us, she told me she wanted to care for drug-affected infants. I said, wait a minute. They are products of what I deal with at work every day. Does this now mean that it's going to become a 24/7 issue for me? Well, I approached a friend of mine who was at church, who was an LAPD sergeant, who had already fostered for 6 years and adopted some children. And I asked him how he dealt with that issue. And he just smiled at me and said, Jesus told us to care for widows and orphans. You know, it's never been a 24 issue for me. Our first placement was a 6-week-old girl who had tested positive for meth at birth. I immediately fell in love with her. A week and a half later, her year and a half old brother joined us. They were with us for 5 months, and the court ordered a trial reunification. We were excited because there was going to be a reunification of a family. We had hopes for them. We met the parents on several occasions, and we actually had the privilege of being present with them at the Juvenile Justice Center when the court awarded them that trial reunification. Unfortunately, 6 weeks later, there was an issue. I was home for lunch, and my wife received a phone call, and when she got off the phone, she was in tears. There had been an issue, and Mom had walked away from the treatment center and left the kids behind and called Dad, and he followed. Well, that night the kids were back in our home. along with another little boy that we had accepted into our home 4 days earlier. What a ride. Malaya was 8 months old, the other little boy was 9 months old, and Michael was 2. All under our roof and in the back seat of my wife's Prius. I'm not sure how we did that. Well, as things went on, the other little boy actually left a short time later. But as things went on, termination of parents' rights was approaching. We began to think that God had in mind for us to adopt these kids. That was never our intention when we entered foster care. Our intention was to care for one little baby or one little child at a time until they could be reunited with their family. But as we started down that process, we thought adoption. And I'm not sure what we were thinking. Here I was 60 years old, and I'm thinking about adopting a 1.5-year-old girl and a 3-year-old boy. Well, in July of 2012, God made it very clear that it was not His intent for us to adopt these kids. It took about 6 weeks for my emotions to catch up with my rational decision. But during the selection process, we met the single woman who was to become their adopted mother. She was definitely the right choice. As we got to know her, we learned that she had lamented that her kids would never have a grandfather because her dad had died when she was younger. We had already said we would love to be the grandparents, and I'm going to cry here soon. It's not enough that we get to be grandparents. But they live 7 doors away from us. So we get to see them all the time. They don't call us Grandma B and Papa. They've been living with their new mom for about 14 months now. And again, we had the privilege of meeting at the Juvenile Justice Center on December 20th when their adoption was finalized. We've had 5 other children come to our home. Since then, we've seen each one of them return to a biological family, fortunately. Early on, we experienced some issues that almost made us leave foster care. But honestly, if it wasn't for the folks at Children and Family Services, in particular one social worker, who took the time to care for us, we would have left. And they made the difference, and we've stayed. And we are just pleased and feel it's a privilege to be a part of their team. Now, over the last 3 years, I've learned some things. I never thought I could love somebody else's kids as much as my own. You can tell I was wrong. I've also learned that there's no foster care or adoption without loss. The loss is experienced both by the parents and the children, but it's also experienced by the foster parents and the social workers, because we all become attached. Foster care is a ministry of presence and restoration. Restoration, hopefully, to the biological family. Restoration of the children's safety. Restoration of the children's dignity. And restoration of the children's opportunity to survive and thrive. I've also learned that there are many opportunities to contribute to these precious young who are most vulnerable. And it's not just being foster parents. In addition to foster parenting, people can provide respite care. They can provide tutoring. They can help run errands. They can babysit the kids so the foster parents can have a date night. They can help with rides to appointments, providing basic needs such as clothing, school supplies, and so on. Just let your imagination be the limit as to how each one of us can be a game changer and a difference maker. That's been my experience. It continues, and I'm looking forward to it continuing. I want to thank you for the time, but as I close, I would like to introduce to you my wife, Mary Beth, our friend, Martha Dale, who is our kid's new mom, and my grandchildren. Thank you very much.
Well, Don, thank you very much. If we could package the two of you and put you in a bottle and take you on the road, we would not have a shortage of foster parents in Ventura County. I'm absolutely certain of that. I mean, the inspiration that both of you provided with your comments, just incredible. I really loved your line. It's a ministry of presence and restoration. I mean, children need us to be present, and when there are parents that for whatever reason blow that, to have people like you and your wife step up and your neighbor, how fortunate to become grandparents and foster parents. I mean, I look at it from our children's standpoint. They got the best of all worlds. You stay in their lives, plus we still have the two of you available for 5 more drug-addicted babies that come forward. If there's anybody listening to this broadcast in the county building, or any of you out there in the audience, either if you're interested or if you know anybody who would become a good foster parent, we have a critical shortage of foster parents in Ventura County. We need people to step forward in any one of many ways. Like you said, you could become a respite care provider, et cetera. But we're really trying to push to increase our recruitment of foster parents, and I know we have Elizabeth back there who's trying to coordinate that. Please just go right over and raise your hand again, Elizabeth, in case there's anybody in the room. You can talk to her, call my office, call anybody in county government. We can hook you up. Thank you very much, Don. We really appreciate
Thank you for supporting
that.
the foster
Mr.
care.
Chair.
You're welcome.
Mr.
Supervisor
Chair,
Zaragoza?
Don, I really want to thank you tremendously, because it's coming from your heart, and the family. Is just fantastic to have people like you taking care of children. The children are so special, and I've had my children too, in fact, grandkids too. But I want to share with you that yesterday I was walking here in the center, and I came down to the lobby here, and Kim from our planning department, there was a gentleman handing over a little baby, days old, just days old, in a bassinet.
Right.
And there she was taking care of the picking up the little baby. And he says, Kim, my God, he says, you got to take, he says, yes, in fact, I have about 4 or 5 meetings, and guess who's going with me? The little baby.
Yeah.
But those kind of people, I think, and you, to take care of children like that is extremely important, and I commend you and your wife and your family and all the people that do this foster care for our children. Thank you so much.
Thank you for letting us do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you.
I too just want to say thank you to Amanda and to you. I mean, you guys are so needed out there, and what you're doing is just coming from the heart and providing that love to children who so desperately want it and need it. So just thank you so much. We need lots of people like you, unfortunately, but so glad that you're there.
Could we get a picture of the foster parents and children down here real quick? Board members, you want to get our picture taken with them real quick here during the moment of inspiration? We don't normally do that, but this is pretty special here, right? Can we do that? That's all part of it, huh? Here we go. There it is. Camera's over there to the right. There we go. Right and left. Brian, you mind coming over here? I think we're all kind of angled that direction. Let's see how long Grandpa can hold 2 of them up. Take your time with the picture.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Don?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Let's give them a big hand, huh? Okay.
Another Cornerstone member.
Yeah, another cornerstone? That's great. That's great. I love that Ministry of Presence and Restoration. He's going to become a minister, right? All right, we're at the consent calendar, and we have items 11 through 17, but Supervisor Zaragoza would like to make some comments about 11. So,
Yes, Mr. Chair, my understanding is that we received a letter regarding item number 11 regarding the Fisherman's Wharf. I have not received the letter. In fact, I just got into town, and so it's around my I just got it. So, but I understand that I'd like to call Lynn, up to the podium, because my understanding is that we are working with Upside, and Upside has already secured title reports, and also they've conducted soil test reports, preliminary engineering reports, and geo studies report. They're working with the city of Oxnard. They're working with the Coastal Commission. The staff is working and negotiating long-term leases with the.
And I was just thinking that, the request is that we take it off the consent calendar, so perhaps we should do that and then have a discussion.
My understanding is that's going to.
Same thing? Okay.
Right now, we're looking at.
Okay, it is hereby off the consent calendar.
Off the consent, right. I mentioned that. So my understanding is that staff is concurrently working with the negotiating leases, and also that we're looking at the draft reports, and then once we get all that information, we're going to take it out to the public, as we mentioned before, and the timeline is working great. We have a website in my district, and also in the county, and also the Lynn's district for the Channel Islands Harbor. But Lynn, you want to give us some more information on that?
Yes, very quickly. This is just when we were here a few weeks ago and Mr. Baker said they were getting ready to go to the public. We said we would be back with this extension just to allow completing the negotiation of the agreement between the county and Upside. Any other permitting will happen after all of that is done. But yes, they're looking to, I believe, next week start scheduling appointments with public
So we're
groups.
continuing with the process, Mr. Chair, and I think it's important that we continue with that process, and we are going to take it to the public, as the public is listening to us. We did promise that we're going to have some meetings with them and to share with them exactly what's going to be developed there, and what the board has directed staff and Upside to work on. So I just wanted to share that with you.
Yeah, just to complete the comment, if people do have questions about the project process, it has been on the website for some time, and you can feel free to direct them to the Harbor Department's website within the county.
board members, any other comments?
So this is just extending it to June?
Right.
That's
Yes.
correct, so that they can kind of help put their, get information about soil and all that. When will the public be able to see design plans?
I would say this month.
This month? Good.
So we're
Anything else?
continuing to work on that.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
So we're ready for a motion on item 11?
Yeah. So move.
That's what the computer hasn't said that yet. Oh, it's been moved, no second required. That's interesting. Can we vote, or should we go back and second?
And then, Chair Bennett?
Supervisor Parks?
Two other items on the consent calendar, just a quick comment on. One is regarding the hazardous materials report, just pointing out that, again, we had a couple of petroleum incidents as we look at issues involving fracking, the concerns of that you do have so many accidents out there in these kind of projects. And then also wanted to compliment you and the Transportation Department on getting 6 blocks of sidewalks put in an area that is very much needed. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. Just for the record, we're voting on item 11 as a non-consent item right now, and then we'll do the rest of the consent calendar. All right, so we're voting on item 11 as a standalone, non-consent item.
Okay.
And that passes, and now we're ready for a motion on the consent comments, and appreciate Supervisor Parks' comments.
Thank you.
So items 12 through 17. We have a motion and second. We're ready to vote. That consent calendar is approved. I don't see our animal reg program ready to begin, so we'll go to public comments now. And I see quite a few people out in the audience there from IHSS. And our first speaker is Caleb Donner. Good morning, Mr. Donner.
Good morning, Supervisor Bennett. My name is Caleb Donner. I'm a local attorney. I live in Moore Park in Supervisor Foy's district, and I appreciate the efforts he makes on behalf of our district. And my office is in Thousand Oaks. And I'm here to comment in favor of raising the minimum wage for in-home support service workers. My understanding is that they are not subject to the living wage ordinance, and as a result, they are paid a lower wage doing an extremely difficult job. I regularly appear in mental health court in Los Angeles, as well as appearing in Ventura and Oxnard, and regularly represent people who are gravely disabled as a result of mental disorders. And these are people that would prefer to stay in their homes if possible, and many are able to stay in their homes rather than in locked facilities or higher levels of care because of the care that in-home support service workers provide to them on a daily basis. And these are people who put in exceptionally long days doing work that most of us don't like to do. And the work is backbreaking, long hours. In the final days of my grandfather's life a few years ago, actually the final years, one of his few wishes was to remain in his home, not be placed in a facility. As he lost control over everyday abilities and everyday things that we take for granted. And he was only able to stay in his home for the last few years of his life because of a woman named Margaret, who was an in-home support service worker. And she made it possible for him to stay in his home. And Margaret and other workers are doing basic hygiene for people they take care of. Showers, baths, helping them use the bathroom, clip their toenails, clean their fingernails, basic things that we take for granted on a daily basis, and the in-home support workers are doing these things for other people, providing them with dignity that they've kind of lost on their own and need help with. And the workers are receiving low wages, and they're not subject to the living wage ordinance, which really is a problem for them. They are doing things that are beneficial to the people for whom they are providing services, and they're also helping keep people out of higher level facilities that are frankly far more expensive than the small bump that providing the IHSS workers with a living wage would provide. These are people that frankly are squeezed between the whims of some of the people they work for in-home and the profits that their employers are making. And this is an inequity that I think we can and should remedy, and the board has the ability to remedy this situation. Frankly, what they do is they take care of our elders and disabled so that they don't have to go in homes, into facilities from their homes. And I think we should support these people that are doing really a good job in keeping our elders out of facilities where they don't want to be. As people lose control over their basic ability to take care of themselves, the one thing that they cling to is staying in their own home if possible. And the in-home service workers are the ones that allow that to happen. And we really should not allow this inequity to continue. And I would encourage the board to use its powers to apply the living wage ordinance to the in-home support service people as well. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it, and I hope you will seriously consider it.
And thank you for helping your grandfather stay in his home until the end of his life.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. He was able to stay there for a few years before his death, and it it made a world of difference to him, and it makes a world of difference for others as well.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Keep up the good work.
Maria Vasquez.
Good morning, County Supervisors. My name is Maria Vasquez. I'm an IHS provider for 2 years. I take care of my mom, who is disabled due to a car accident. I take care of Alice and Muriel, who they need care because they are on their 80s. And I mostly help them with house chores, personal care, meals, doctor appointments, shopping, errands, pick up medicines for them, and whatever they need to be done for them, they need also sometimes to listen to them. As our population continues to age, IHS workers will play a large role in how and where our citizens get to live out their lives. Aging in places and homes has become a discussion topic in all levels of government, and we hear it firsthand from our consumers. IHS workers take care of aging, disabled, and blind residents of Ventura County. Without the IHS workers, many of our consumers will be forced to out-of-home care, resulting in more expensive care, but not necessarily the care of choice of our consumers. I am here today because IHS workers need a raise to a livable wage. By providing IHS workers with a livable wage, we will be paving the way for the strong care workforce we know we will need with the coming aging population. So I ask the county supervisors to please support and vote for a wage increase for a group of workers that not only save the county money, but also take care of our seniors. Ventura County can be leaders in making sure that our seniors are well taken care of in their own homes. Thank you for your support, and God bless us all.
Thank you
so
for your
much.
testimony, Ms. Vasquez. We really appreciate it.
No problem.
Next speaker is Patricia Puentes. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, County Supervisors. My name is Patricia Puentes, and I have been an IHS provider for 6 years. I care for my daughter named Maggie, who chronologically is at age 21, but developmentally functions at a 5-year-old level, okay? And that's on good days. She also requires 24-hour supervision because, as you know, you can't leave a 5-year-old by themselves. She also does not understand danger, okay? My daughter has very limited language, and when she does speak, her words are very powerful. One of the things she does say is, "Live my family," meaning she would continue to live with her family. I am here today because IHS's workers need a raise to livable wage. Right now, the workers who take care of children with disabilities, they do not get vacation or sick days. They do not get pensions, and they are paid less than what the county considers a living wage in Ventura County. So I'm ask the county supervisors to please support and vote for a wage increase for IHSS workers. Ventura County can be leaders in making sure that we take care of those who take care of the most needy. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Susan Escalante.
Good morning, Supervisors. My name is Susan Escalante, and I've been an IHSS provider for 16 years. I'm here today to ask the county supervisors to support a raise for IHSS workers to something that is livable. We have not received a raise since 2007. If we continue to stay at our current wages, home care workers will be minimum wage workers in 2 years. It has become tougher and tougher to make ends meet in Ventura County at our current rates. Rent and utilities have continued to go up, especially water rates across the county. Home care workers currently make well below what the county considers a living wage, and as they struggle to meet ends meet, they are caring for a population in Ventura County that needs them. In giving IHSS workers a livable wage, you not only affect the 3,200 home care workers in Ventura County, but also the lives of the 4,000 people they take care of, because there will be continuality of care and higher job satisfaction, which benefits directly the people we care for. A majority of IHSS workers are women who are oftentimes are heads of households, and their wages go to pay rent, to pay bills, and to feed their children. It is time that Ventura County steps up and is a good example for surrounding communities and businesses by supporting a wage increase for IHSS workers to something that is comparable to their own living wage. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Escalante. Patrick Donahue. Good morning, Mr. Donahue.
Morning. Thank you. My name is Patrick Donahoe. I'm the Executive Director of the Ventura County Democratic Party. Last week, our party passed a resolution urging the supervisors to include IHSS workers in the living wage ordinance. But in truth, this is not a partisan issue. This is an issue of fairness. As Susan just said, they have gone more than 7 years without a raise. That in just 2 short years, they will be getting the state minimum wage. It's all of you should be enormously proud that we have a living wage here in Ventura County. And I know how hard all of you work to make that happen. But what does it say ultimately? That those who care for the least among us, those who care for our elderly, for our disabled, are being told that they do not deserve a living wage, that they can't have it, that we know what the standard is to be able to live in Ventura County, and that they do not get to receive it. This is also, of course, a fiscal issue. And here, too, the reality is IHSS workers help save Ventura County money. They care for people who cannot care for themselves. And so the alternative to allowing them to stay in their homes with the help of IHSS workers is to put them into managed care facilities, which cost much more. Finally, this is an issue of dignity. I come from a multi-generational home. I'm blessed to have gotten to know not just my grandparents, but my great-grandparents. And about 8 years ago, my grandfather passed. He had to go into a facility. He wasted away for the course of about 6 months. And ever since, every couple of months, my grandmother, who still actually goes out and volunteers 3 days a week, so it's morbid, but she says she wants to die in her home. She's lived here in Ventura in her home for more than 40 years, and that's where she wants to stay. And right now, she's able to care for herself. She's able to take care of herself. She goes out and works in the community. But someday she's going to need that help and to have the dignity to live where she wants to live. And IHSS workers are who will provide her with that dignity. And in return, we need to provide them with the dignity of a living wage. And so I thank you for considering this, and I ask as you listen to their stories to remember that necessity dictates, this meeting has to happen during the weekday. but that for every person you hear, there are literally 100 other IHSS workers with stories just as moving, just as personal, who work here in Ventura County, protecting our elderly and our disabled. I thank you for your time.
Thank you for taking your time. And looks like our final speaker, Jennifer Van Doren. Is there a Jennifer Van Doren here? Am I pronouncing that correct? Is there anybody else here who put in a card to speak? All right. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair.
What? Somebody raise their hand? Did you?
Put a card in, but I would like to speak.
Sure. Come on down, and will you please fill a card out afterwards, and then state your name for the record.
My name is Heidi McKinney.
I'm sorry, you got to get closer to the microphone.
My name is Heidi McKinney. I'm also an IHSS worker. I care for my child. She's 9. She's 9 years old, cognitively about a year and a half. She needs 24/7 care. She can't walk. She can't talk. G-tube fed seizure disorder. And I'm supposed to live on what I get from the state, from IHSS. It's not enough. I've given up everything in my life. I've lost my marriage. I had a nurse in my home. My husband left me for the nurse. So, I didn't give up. I'm there. I'm taking care of her. She's the most amazing thing in my life. And all of the workers do the same thing that I do for their clients or their family members. Without us, our kids will be put away. And they may get the quote-unquote care they need, but they don't get the love. And I know that I'm not the only IHSS worker that loves their charges. I can't imagine my life without, she can't live without me, and all of the other patients that are cared for by these IHSS workers need us to be present every day. We don't get vacation. We don't get time off. But we're okay with it because we love what we do. And we need the help from you guys to let us maintain what we do on a daily basis and do it with a smile and not with a worry. These are our kids. We love them. Thank you for listening.
How lucky for your daughter
Thank
that you stayed for her.
Oh,
right?
yes.
Particularly with her father leaving under those circumstances.
Yep.
Wow. Good for you.
Thank you.
That's great.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. I think a number of us want to say something. Just one thing I just want to say as I listen to the stories that I was thinking, we have 800,000 residents in Ventura County. We're talking about 4,000 people, not all seniors, being cared for here. If you just ask the question, should a society organize itself so that 4,000 of their residents are able to stay in their home rather than go into a facility, I don't think there's any question the answer would be yes. And so you've really helped remind us of that here today, and I appreciate that. I know Supervisor Zaragoza has something to say, and Mr. Powers has some comments.
Yes, Mr. Chair. I just want to thank, like we thanked the foster home care individuals just a few minutes ago. I just want to thank all of you, the in-home providers, for taking care of the elderly, your family members. And I know it's tough, and it takes people like you to help the elderly, to help the family members that need assistance, for them to stay home. And a lot of the family members, elderly, want to stay at home because they don't want to stay in a facility where they're not taken care of like you do. But I just want to thank you tremendously for the good work that you're doing. Thank the speakers like Mary Vasquez, they're very emotional. I thank you so much, and Susan and Patrick for, I know this is not political, this is more a humane reason to help these individuals, but I want to thank you for the important job that you do. Thank you so much for being here today.
I do just also want to say the one speaker was absolutely correct. Because of you, people don't have to end up in a facility. It's a much more humane and much more desirable quality of life for the folks that you're taking care of. And it also does save the government money. And paying for someone to be in a facility is a lot more expensive. And so I appreciate the work that you do, but mostly because you do it from your heart, that you're caring for people who really need you. So thank you so much.
Mr. Powell.
Thank you, Chair Bennett. And of course, our board members expressed it very well. Just thank you for the work that you do. I don't think enough people know about the work that you do and your commitment and compassion in caring for the most vulnerable in our community. So thank you for that. I do want to urge you to continue to work with your labor team to make sure your requests are being transmitted. Now, it was about 3 weeks ago we received the request for an increase. And so just so you know, that is something that we're evaluating right now. And so I urge you to have your labor team continue to work with Mr. Cosio and our labor team to work on this issue collectively. So thank you very much again for your testimony.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Supervisor Foy.
You hear these people speak, and you can hear the heartfelt side. Even if I didn't get paid, I would always, like that woman, I'd always take care of my daughter. I would never not do it. It's just the hearts are there. They care. It's just it's what we do as people. We saw that in the foster thing too.
Well, thank you all for taking the time to come down here and talk to us during public comments. And we have no other public testimony, so we'll go to board comments. Start with Supervisor Zaragoza.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd just like to share that we continue working with listos. Listos,
You can leave if you'd like right now. I mean, I saw you kind of want, and you can stay and listen to board comments. That's completely up to you.
Thank you
very
again.
much. Right. Let's hold 1 second.
Okay.
We'll give them a chance to. There's a blue card outside, or do you have a blue card here? There you go. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay.
Sounds quiet enough, Supervisor Zaragoza, as
Yeah.
we're leaving. So
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'd just like to share with you that we continue with the listos a program. Listos in Spanish means ready, and we're this is our third meeting that we're going to have, a third training program that we're having at Cesar Chavez School in Colonium, training in emergencies for earthquakes, for tsunamis, for fires. We continue training not only the public but also my staff. We continue training for that. As I mentioned before, not too many people know where the gas meter is, or where the water shutoff is, or where the electrical panel is, or how much food to keep at home, and who to contact, and where to meet in case of an emergency. So we continue that every Tuesday evening we got 3 more Tuesdays, and hopefully my staff will also be trained to the point that we, if anything happens here at the center or at their homes, and so we continue with that program. I'd also like to share with you that I just got back from Chicago, and it's when you come back to Oxnard and Ventura, we just don't know how blessed we are. We're out there at a -degree weather, and my grandson graduated from boot camp, the Navy boot camp there at Great Lakes Naval Station Center, and we're just very, very proud of the Navy. For the Navy individuals that we have here, does an excellent job in their graduation program for our enlisted young men. And I was just, my wife and I and my daughter and her husband were very happy to be there to see him graduate from the naval basic training at Great Lakes.
Great.
So thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to interrupt our board comments because I see Tara Diller here, and as busy as we have tasked her and the other animal service people, I don't want her to have to wait until we're done with our comments. And I know that she has a new presentation in addition in terms of where we're going. So I'd like to use this opportunity to introduce our new animal service Director, our Animal Services Director. We're really happy to have her down here from Sacramento. And this gives you a chance to kind of kick yourself off, and I kick myself for letting all those people get out of the audience without having your presentation go to them also. But didn't see you in here before we got to that public.
And I want to welcome her and adjourn in memory of my folks in this
Oh,
list.
thank you very much. I'm
Thank
sorry,
you.
Supervisor.
That's okay.
Zaragoza. Good.
Welcome.
All right,
Thank
so
you.
we'll interrupt our board comments, and here we go. You're on,
Thank
Tara.
you. Good
Welcome.
morning, Chair Bennett, members of the board, Mr. Powers. My name is Tara Diller. I'm the new Director of Animal Services. First, I would like to take this opportunity to really thank the leadership staff, Mr. Powers, Mr. Carroll, and Mr. Fisher. It was apparent to me during my interview process just how invested the leaders were in this community, the board and the leaders, and what interested me in this position is how truly caring these gentlemen were and really wanted to see this animal shelter succeed. So I just wanted to take the time to acknowledge that. I'd also like to take the time to acknowledge the amazing staff and the volunteers at Ventura County Animal Shelter. Donna Gillespie especially for taking on the leadership role. I know it was a tough go for quite a few months at the shelter, so I'm really excited to watch us stabilize, and I think you're going to see a lot of exciting things to come out of us. I'd now like to talk to you about the new and exciting Ventura County Animal Services that you're going to see, and talk to you about some new programs and innovative steps that we're taking to help us become a no-kill shelter. First, we've recently expanded our adoption program. We now have a program where volunteers and staff can check out a dog for a day, put an Adopt Me vest on the dog, and take the dog out in the community. I feel strongly that we need to bring our shelter to the community. There's plenty of people who just feel it's too sad to come into an animal shelter. So we're really focused on bringing our shelter into the community one by one. So we've recently expanded our our volunteer program to include that. Additionally, we're working on a teen volunteer program. We'll have 13 to 16 come in with a parent, 16 to 18 come in without a parent. They can do kitty cuddling, they can do animal socialization, and basic enrichments. And so we're really excited to watch that program grow. We've recently also offered canine cardio, and that's for staff and volunteers to take a dog out during their lunch break. We have one staff member who takes a dog out for a 3-mile run, and it's really great for the staff.
So who walks who? The dog walks the person, or the
It
person?
depends on the dog and the staff. But it's really great because it's a stress reliever for both staff and for the pet. So the animal goes back into the kennels and is really decompressed and is ready to face the new adopters who are walking into the kennels. So we're really excited that we've been working closely with risk management on developing these new processes. We also have a new intake procedure and a new intake room. Every animal that comes into our shelter now has a photo that's taken of it immediately from a webcam and is updated onto our website. Currently, our website updates every 60 minutes. Soon, it will be every 30 minutes. And our goal is really to increase the amount of pets that go home via our Lost and Found program. We're developing a new live Twitter feed where every lost pet that comes in will go onto Twitter with a link to its photo. And we're working with the community members from all of the incorporated cities to develop a task force per city so that when pets come in, we'll have task force members in the community to put up posters where that pet was found and is now in the shelter. We are really excited to start ramping up our pit bull program. We're working with the Animal Farm Foundation. It's an extremely innovative program out of New York. They've reached out to me, and they've offered to assist us in creating a robust pit bull adoption program. So I have a conference call with them next week, and so we're really excited to offer more incentives as to why a pit bull is a great family pet. I'm really excited about this. We're also working towards no longer killing any healthy feral cat. We view feral cats the same way we view wildlife. As long as they're not a nuisance in the community, they should be fixed and put back out there as they serve a purpose. UC Davis and the University of Florida has done extensive studies and research on this, and UC Davis has offered to come out and speak to the community members and the stakeholders here. So we're engaging the incorporated cities to really make this program successful here. In Sacramento, when we introduced this, we saw a 22% reduction of cats that came into the shelter in just the first year. So I'm a firm believer of the Community Cats program. We are placing a greater emphasis on officer safety. We're currently pursuing a grant for ballistic vest for our officers, and are purchasing some safety equipment and putting them through officer training. So we're really excited to allow the community to see them as the everyday heroes they are, and I think that placing them on social media and having their presence be stronger with how they look in the community and the equipment that they have and the training that they have is a first step to that. We're seeing a huge increase in community support. Just recently, we've had 2 community members who've started a nonprofit foundation specifically for our shelter, which is really impressive. Paw Works was founded by Christina Morgan, and her goal is to help the Ventura County Animal Services shelters become no-kill. Since January of 2014, she's pulled just about 100 animals from our shelter, so that's tremendous. Also, Bill, I apologize for pronouncing his name wrong, but I have a feeling I'm going to do it. Bill Tutina and his friends formed Putts for Paws. It's a golf tournament every year, so our first golf tournament is June 23rd, 2014 at Spanish Hills. They are looking forward to making this an annual event for our shelter, and the goal is to help renovate the facility to make it more friendly for the pets. And our community support, our first Simi adoption event. As you know, we now offer adoptions at our Simi Valley shelter. Our first Simi adoption event yielded 28 adoptions, and $7,000 was raised by Teresa's Feed, and they're using those funds to help offset 50% of the adoption fees for every animal that leaves Simi Valley. In addition to these community members, the rescues have really stepped up in a time of need when we've called upon them when our kennels are full. So we're tremendously grateful for the community support that's really launched from our efforts. Lastly, we've received some really exciting news this year that we were chosen to be one of 50 shelters nationwide to be accepted into the ASPCA and Rachel Ray 100K Challenge. We are tasked with saving 800 more lives June, July, and August of this year than we did last year. So that means we need to save 2,300 lives in those 3 short months. We will be judged on the amount of lives we save and the increased community support. So I'd like to ask that everybody ask your friends and family to like our Facebook page at Ventura County Services or Ventura County Animal Services. There's our little plug there. And as you know, we've become committed to becoming a no-kill shelter, and I'm proud to announce that over the last 2 months, we've not had a euthanasia list. Our live release rate, so the amount of pets that we've saved, both in January and February of this year, has been 90%. Wow. So that formally puts us on the no-kill list, if you will. Thank you. It's really the hard work of the dedicated staff and volunteers that have really stepped up in your support here. So I really like to thank you. We really look forward to creating many more positive outcomes at Ventura County. So thank you. Okay. Lastly, I'd like you to now watch a video of Sura. This is a feature that we are hoping to bring to your board every month. To help increase the amount of pets that are shown. I know you have a great amount of exposure here in the board chambers, so let's take a look at
And
Sura.
now, from your friends at Animal Services, here's the Pet Parade.
Sura is a chocolate lab mix who we affectionately refer to as the Queen Wigglebutt. She has the best dance moves you've ever seen and will even ramp up the excitement if you mimic her wiggles. Sura walks nicely on a leash and seems to love people of all shapes and sizes. This big, cuddly gal is under medical care for a skin condition called Demodex, which is not contagious and is easily treatable, but could be something that comes back throughout her life. Give Sura a chance to win you over by playing with her at our Camarillo Adoption Center, 600 Aviation Drive. Ask for A590181.
Ventura County Animal Services Adoption Centers in Camarillo and Simi Valley are open 7 days a week. For more information on the dozens of other animals available for adoption, please visit us at www.vcas.us or call 888-223-PETS.
So we get to see these once a month?
We hope so, yes.
That would be great.
So thank you. It's nice to finally get to meet all of you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Well, welcome aboard. You're the result of a very long search that was out there in terms of trying to find the right person, and we're just really delighted. It's obvious just hearing some of the changes that you've already brought down, the great ideas that you have, and the approach that you have. That we had, I think, a tremendous effort coordinated by Donna and what was going on, and to have the addition, to have Donna still be there and all the rest of the staff be there, and to have the addition of somebody from the outside with all of that fresh energy and new ideas is just what we need to go forward. And I do want to thank also, I mean, the board, it's easier probably for the board to sit here and say, yes, we want to become a no-kill shelter, and then to have staff have to go out and try to pull something like that off and head that direction. But to Mike Powers and Matt Carroll and Barry Fisher and the other people that really stepped up, and I know Barry really stepped up. He was not in this field, and suddenly he was completely immersed in this field, and really appreciate the time that you took, Barry, in terms of stepping up to make this happen. And we have a remarkable community. I think we can pull it together and we can pull it off. This board had the courage to vote for the mandatory spay and neuter that staff asked us to try to support, and now we're hopeful that we can get cities to join us with that. And we'll just keep trying to do what we can to give you the tools you need to be successful. So don't hesitate to communicate with us. This is something that is important. And you know, when Lowell Novi was here in this room and he talked about what they were able to accomplish down in Simi Valley, I think it's just another example of how civilized are we? How well do we take care of our foster kids? How well do we take care of our elderly? How well do we take care of defenseless animals that all three, through no fault of their own, find themselves in need and stuff. So thank you very much, Tara. Really appreciate it.
Tara, thank you. Welcome to you. And I want to thank Donna and her staff and Fisher and Ollie for the no-kill. 90% is fantastic, and I want to thank you for being here, and I know you're going to work with the cities, and I know you're going to be working with Oxnard. I represent Oxnard, and I'm sure that we will have some cooperation there from the cities, but I want to thank you again for the good work that I believe you're going to do for us. Thank you so much, and welcome.
I also do want to say welcome and also say thank you to Donna and also Barry for their good work and keeping it going. There are a lot of animal rescue heroes out there, and it's just nice to be able to start networking them together and using all the resources you can. And you can definitely use our offices too when you need to. But I'm really looking forward to what you can do for us, and I'm glad that we were able to get you. So congratulations, and I really do like the idea of once a month coming, showing a pet of the month, if you will, and then being able to see the results of it getting adopted, hopefully, too. So good luck to you.
Thank you.
I know that Barry's excited to get you. I don't know if it was because the great work he thought you were going to do or just get him out of that job. We gave him something else to do, too.
A little bit of both, I'm sure.
But I know he looks forward to it. So thank you, and hopefully we're going to see some great things come out of this department. It's been a great department anyways. A lot of good things to have. You got some good people working with you.
Yes, it's
thanks.
amazing.
Mr. Powers.
Yeah, I was just a little disappointed. I thought there'd be some more enthusiasm or great ideas, but I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, Tara, welcome. We're just thrilled that you're here. Just great chemistry, I think I see between you and Donna and the staff out there. There's a lot of momentum going on in Ventura County Animal Services, so it's a great team.
Thank you. And thank you for the support. Thank you.
Yeah, chocolate labs are not easy to come by, so this hopefully this pet adoption video will really work, right?
Well, we saved him for you, so give us a call.
Walked right into that.
Thank you very much. All righty, we're back to, I'm going to come back to board comments now. Board, appreciate you letting us stop so that Tara and Donna can get back to work. And Supervisor Foy.
I think you're past your 9:30, and I'm going to adjourn in memory of this. We're supposed to be done by 9:30, but no, I do want to say that
Well, he's relentless, right?
I am. I want to get this done. If we're going to have a short meeting, let's have them. But I do want to say that just that moment of inspiration with the whatever you did, the kids, was just something special today. It was a good time, and just the idea that people. It just shows humanity, the good side of humanity. People who say to care, I don't care what it takes. I'm 60 years old. If I got to do it, I got to do it. But it didn't work out for him. But wow, being a grandfather, somebody down the street, it just people never know when if they're not willing to step into certain things, what the blessings are really going to be for them. And that was just something special. So I want to say thank you. That's all I got to say. Thanks.
Thank you, Supervisor Parks.
Thanks. First, I'd like to ask that we close in honor of the individual on this list, and then let the board know that it was a dark and stormy night last Wednesday when the Women's Economic Roundtable came together for the first inaugural meeting. Supervisor Long and myself both attended, and they elected their executive committee. The chair will be Linda Catherine Lee, and the vice chair from Supervisor Long's district is Jody Skendarian. And then from Supervisor Zaragoza's district, Recorder Gina Jager, who is also with the Girl Scouts of America. So it's each lady brought forward a lot of good resources with them, and a lot of them just meeting each other for the first time. And their next meeting is going to be on March 17th, and they're going to be discussing their goals and the partnerships and resources that they bring to the table too. So it's really exciting to see this take off and so well. Also a shout out to an appreciation to Elaine Crandall for coming, giving some background and explaining the Brown Act and ethics laws and those kind of things that we can get them on the path to a really good start. And it is nice also to have Linda Catherine Lee there too, that she has a lot of experience that she can bring, being the assistant treasurer too. Additionally, went to a really historic event where the city of Thousand Oaks met with their sister city from China, the city of Qingdao, and they had a signing and sharing of gifts, and it was really nice to see. It's a very major city there. It's a port city. It has biomed like the city of Thousand Oaks does. And you can just really see the incredible potential there to stimulate the economy, quite frankly. I know they wanted to get a chance to go out to see the Port of Hueneme. I don't know if they were able to do that in their schedule, but I presented a resolution and also wish that we had a way to share counties or I guess provinces there or what have you. But it is a great idea, and it was nice to see that. I know Council Member Claudia Bill de la Peña was very instrumental in helping move that forward, and then was surprisingly recognized last weekend as the Chamber's Woman of the Year, which was a big surprise to her particularly. So that was all very nice. Also, I was able to attend the Boys and Girls Club Superstar event that they had out in the Civic Arts Plaza. You just realize how fortunate that community is to have that major theater system where the youth have an opportunity to perform in such a great venue. And it was nice to see an award. The winners for the Superstars was Danielle Connor, and for 14 and over, Liam Lecca. Also attended a nice ceremony in recognition of a major open space advocate who'd been on the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy Advisory Committee, I think probably since it started, just about 3 decades. His name's Dave Brown, and we had a nice event for him. He also helped save the King Gillette Ranch, and that's where we had the event, and dedicated an overlook to him. And also was able to attend an Eagle Scout Court of Honor in the Santa Rosa Valley for residents in Thousand Oaks. But Mark Fuller became an Eagle Scout, and it's always nice to attend those events. And I think that concludes my comments.
Thank you very much. I'd like to start off with the Adjourn in Memory and something that Mr. Powers might be interested in, but We lost our former executive officer of Ventura County, Lauren W. Enoch. Now, if he's not from Scandinavia with that name, I don't know where he's from, but he served from December 4th, 1961 to December 20th, 1971. So all through the turbulent 1960s, he was executive officer, and certain there are many people in county government that will miss him. And then I'd like to adjourn in memory of the other people on this list. Appreciate Supervisor Parks and Long attending the kickoff of the Women's Economic Roundtable. I'm glad that there's just a lot of positive energy that's really come together, and I compare that to where we were. I think that the leadership of the two of you have really infused sort of the whole women's leadership movement that we have here in Ventura County. I think it's interesting that their next meeting is going to be on March 17th, so I think they're going to go and celebrate St. Patrick's Day after the meeting, I imagine. The one thing that I know Supervisor Parks was at that she didn't, or at least I didn't hear her mention it, but that was the community building breakfast for the Turning Point Foundation. They're doing a really bang-up job of expanding their community support out there in the community, and they had a very inspirational speaker. They traditionally bring somebody to that breakfast who is a high-performing person who has been able to manage their mental illness somehow, and just really inspires people to get this out of the closet and be able to talk about that. And so really appreciate that. I have I missed Supervisor Zaragoza being there. Thank you very much, right? And Mr. Powers. I knew Mr. Powers was there, but I failed to catch that Supervisor Zaragoza was there. So that was great. And again, this organization is doing a really good job. With that, in an effort to try to stay on Mr. Foy's schedule, I will end my comments and we will go on. We have Mr. Powers, who reserved my time for Mr. Powers' comments. Right, there we go.
Thank you, Chair Bennett and board members. Just wanted to clarify something on the pension initiative study that your board directed our office to initiate and conduct last week at your board's last meeting. There was an article today in our friendly local neighborhood paper, The Star, about the study, and I wanted to clarify a couple of points. So last week, your board, as well as the initiative authors, requested a study be completed as quickly as possible. Our office determined that Siegel Consultants was the best choice given their experience as actuaries in the area, as well as their familiarity with our own Vocera system right here locally. On that same day, your board's direction last week, our office, through Assistant County Counsel Matt Carroll, contacted Siegel. Siegel indicated that concurrence of the Vocera board was necessary for them to conduct the study, given that Vocera was their primary client. And they recommended that using their existing contract with Vocera would allow them to begin efforts immediately. And our approach, of course, was to try to get this done as quickly as possible. In fact, Vocera staff confirmed that using their contract would be the most expeditious manner to complete the study and was consistent with how such studies were done in the past. These points were confirmed at the Vocera hearing. And then just to be clear, our office has no issue contracting directly with Siegel. In fact, we think that's the preferred way to go. So we're happy to do that, and we're off and running. But I just wanted to make those few points very clear, that it was Siegel that asked us to take that approach. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. And the Vocera board was supportive of the study, simply wanted to make sure that it's done through us. Is that correct?
Thank you, Supervisor. Yes, the Vocera board had no problem with the study. They just preferred that our office contract directly with Siegel, so no problem.
Which is what we prefer also.
Which is what we prefer. That's right. Thank you.
All right. Good. Thank you. All righty. I think we're ready to move to our heavy agenda that we have here. We'll go to item 22, recommendation of Supervisor Parks.
Thank you. This is a recommendation to appoint Richard Gaz to the Casa Conejo Municipal Advisory Council. He was instrumental in putting together the survey that we are still getting responses back, an incredible response rate out there, just to gauge the what is of concern to the community of Casa Conejo. And also, I believe he was a former employee for the City of Thousand Oaks in their Public Works Department, so I know he'll be a great addition, and ask that you approve his appointment.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. We're ready to vote. All right, that's been approved. And item 23, CEO's office. Good morning, Mr. Dursey.
Morning, board members. Paul Dursey from the County Executive Office. We are asking your board to accept for the fiscal year 14-15 the Budget Development Manual is presented as our budget process and our instructional document to standardize the budget process. Also accept the internal rates and charges. Last week, the board saw presentations by the internal service funds, and those internal service fund rates are included in this budget development manual, and also approve the budget process calendar. Last week was ISF rates. This week is the budget development manual. Next week our more formal, not formal, but instructional on our target budget presentation will be made, and then after that, of course, the departments will have an opportunity to come and discuss their budgets with your board, and then ultimately June 3rd the preliminary budget presented, and June 16th budget deliberations. So that's generally the format for this year. Some of the highlights we will touch on a little bit more next week in our target budget development. But property taxes are increasing, and of course I don't think there's any shock. Retirement rates are increasing. So those are the two main items. ISF rates are again going down, and we are going forward with the rates in the manual as presented.
Is there anything that you would like to introduce into public testimony about any significant changes in the budget development manual? Was it essentially the same?
Essentially the same. Okay. Everything is pretty much the same. Our retirement rates are a little different this year because of the fact that we're making certain assumptions regarding salary increases relative to offsetting retirement contributions made by the county for the employees. But other than that, everything is pretty similar to
pretty much
prior
the same
years.
kind of
Correct.
budget development manual. All right, board members, any questions?
Well, I was going to ask, when you talk about that retirement, I'm looking at this on page, whatever it was, something 15, going back to it going up this 1% or something. Is that what you're talking about, the increases? We're going for general members to 16.77 to 17.98. Is that what you're talking about, these pension increases?
Yeah, those are the pension increases themselves. In prior years, what we had done was overall, our retirement costs the line item retirement is going down, actually. But that's because we're assuming that we're no longer going to be picking up retirement contributions for managers and SEI across the board, frankly, because that's been so far the labor negotiations that we've settled have included a offset for retirement compensation. So we've included those retirement offsets in our assumptions. So, but those are the actual rates. We're just trying to compare last year's rates to this year's rates. But if you look at last year's budget manual, the rates would be a lot higher because they would have included the county pickup for the employee.
County pickups portion.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And then are we starting to project some cost in your budget? Do you project cost of other things we're going to be doing in the future? We got another item coming after this one that you're doing that's going to have some cost to us. It's going to add people possibly on our healthcare plan that'll pay premium, but there are also claims issues that'll adjust. I mean, are we tracking some of those possibilities of increases and different things? I mean, how are we? Maybe it's when you add 260 or 500 people to a plan that has thousands, you don't think it's that enough, but it can be somewhat dramatic.
Yeah, generally speaking, we try to add all the costs that we know of today.
Just today's costs.
And what we'll do is we'll make 5-year projections on any additional costs that potentially will come down the road and include those in our 5-year forecast. For example, if we know that we're going to have additional debt service 2 years from now after we complete some project or something like that, we'll include those in our projection. If it's not impacting next fiscal year, it won't be in this analysis, but it will be in our multi-year projection.
Right.
Last year at this time, we weren't sure, the Affordable Care Act was kind of in process. We weren't sure about the Healthcare Human Services Agency, the number of additional positions they were going to have to do from an administrative standpoint. We did not have that in our projection at that time. But between now and budget and the actual preliminary budget, we added a lot of positions for those departments. We'll do the same type of thing. We'll add what we know between now and the budget time, additional positions for board-approved projects, those types of things. So
it's more in your 5-year planning. You're going to bring on some of these as we as more decisions are made at this board and the CEO's office, then we'll add on some of those additional cost items in a 5-year projection as we get to has just some assumptions in there. Because some of these things are having.
The 5-year forecast is full of assumptions. Clearly, our budget for next year is full of assumptions, number one being the property tax dollars coming in. But the 5-year forecast is, the further you get out, the less reliable and the bigger the assumptions become.
Okay, I was just curious, I just want to make sure that we're somewhat planning, because we started to do something, especially the Affordable Care Act, they're going to have impacts on us that are going to be expensive, as we know. So, okay.
Right, and we do know that we're going to be having to expand some programs in next year. KDA, for one, is an example. All of those costs have not been incorporated into this, but probably will be determined within the next 6 to 8 months, so we can roll forward. We may come back. We may be included in the final budget. Some numbers are included in here. Some will be added to the preliminary budget, and then, of course, as we go further out, we'll probably make budget adjustments in next fiscal year and subsequent years as we fully roll out that new, quite significant program.
Mr. Powers?
But just to clarify, the cost impacts of the Affordable Care Act in terms of additional staffing, for example, are included and will be included in this year and next year's budget. And so we'll include all of those and point that out as we go along. KDA is not in there yet, but it's going to be.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, for example, we didn't know all the information on the AB 109 public safety realignment. We made a couple assumptions, but primarily we left a big chunk of the dollars out, $4 or $5 million, until we knew the actual dollars. This year's has a big portion. Most of the information is already in our target budgets that we'll be presenting next week.
And there's no question, I mean, that you guys have done a really good job over the years I've been here budgeting, where there's usually some budget surplus to a point, so you can take into account that we don't go over our budget, because we have some of that ability to be a little bit more flexible. And that's why, I mean, some of these costs can get, like I said, this $4 or $5 million here or there, and they all start to add up to be some big numbers.
Pretty soon we'll start talking real dollars.
Yeah, real dollars, yeah.
Supervisor Parks?
I was wondering if there is going to be a separate discussion on capital improvements.
Yes, there will be, and that's our plan. Generally will be come in April sometime and discuss capital improvements, capital projects, and long-term debt, just like we did last year and before the actual preliminary budget is presented. So we would include anything that we have, what we call I think it's Schedule C in the preliminary budget. All those items will be discussed ahead of time with your board, and we'll make a presentation on the long-term plan.
Good, and I do appreciate that, because when we get to see it all at once, it's helpful and allows us to prioritize too.
Right. During the month of April, our departments will also make presentations, and that is one of our budget units that we would also be making a presentation for is the capital projects debt service. Correct.
Thanks.
Yeah, but on that capital projects, we wanted to have that discussion outside of the budget discussion, because there's so much other information just standalone.
Could you repeat again what's going to happen with pension rates, you said, for next
Pension
year?
rates are actually going up. I mean, the overall rate I don't have the numbers. They're in the number, but they're going up because of the pension costs are going up, actuarially speaking. In the budget itself for pension costs is actually going down a little bit or pretty stable, ticking down a hair because of the fact that we've replaced the county pickup of employee costs with a raise on the employee side.
So the actual pension cost is going to go down slightly.
Slightly.
And I just want to highlight that to just talk about how complicated pension financing is. It wouldn't be appropriate for people who want to defend the current system to say, hey, our pension costs are going down next year, just like I think it's not appropriate to go from our pension holiday back in 2000 and now say, oh, pension costs have gone up dramatically. We were paying on pension obligation bonds back at that point in time, and that didn't get listed, in there. So it just reminds me that pension financing is very complicated, and it's very easy to take any isolated fact out of it and cite that, right? You got to have more sophisticated picture than that. Yes.
No, I was just going to share, that our employees are now in the 50-50 plan, so that's for the pension, they're paying their half,
That's what we're assuming throughout.
Which is extremely important that people understand that, and the offset costs would be what you're talking about.
All right, we're ready for a motion on the recommended action on item 23.
Possibly the only municipality in the state of California with a
That's right,
50/50
exactly right.
Pulled that off so far. All right. Okay, we're at item 24.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Bennett, members of the board, Mr. Powers. For the record, Kelly Shirk, County Executive Office, Human Resources. In the board letter before you today, we are recommending that the county's extra help, intermittent, and per diem employees be offered the opportunity to purchase Ventura County Health Care Plan. These employees are not currently eligible for the county's flexible benefits program, and because of this, the employees would pay the entire premium. As you may know now, we've talked about Affordable Care Act quite frequently. The act requires that the county offer health insurance to those employees that regularly work 60 or more hours per bi-week. And we must offer health insurance, and the health insurance must be affordable for this group. If the county fails to offer coverage to this group of employees, beginning in 2015, large penalties may be imposed on the county. And this tax had a name. It was called the sledgehammer tax. While the county cannot be penalized to offer by failure to offer the coverage mentioned previously until 2015, we still have the responsibility to provide coverage to this group. By implementing the process now, we will have the opportunity to make sure that it runs smoothly prior to any penalties going into effect and to be in compliance with the law. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
I have two questions for you.
Yes, sir.
One, did you say anybody that's offered, anybody that works more than 16 hours?
60,
Or 60 hours. I
Mhm.
thought, thank you. And the other thing is, do we have confidence that we have the capacity to be able to handle increased enrollment in our healthcare?
Yes, we work closely with the Ventura County Healthcare Plan, and based on the number ratios that we currently have with our per diem nurses, we don't think it will have a significant impact, but it's something we'll watch over the next
And
year.
our clinic capacity also is
Right.
sufficient. Great. Thank you very much.
And Mr. Chair, that's 60 hours in the pay period, right?
Correct.
And the employee will pay the entire premium themselves.
Yes,
There's
ma'am.
no contribution from the county. I'm just wondering, in the fiscal impacts, it refers to TBD,
To be determined.
Can you give me a little bit more about what
The-
is to be determined?
If we have, the only group that we can be penalized for not providing health care coverage would be those that work 60 hours or more per bi-week. And right now, we have a total of 537 employees in the extra help, intermittent, per diem category that are covered under this particular policy. Right now, we have 161 per diem nurses, and only 17 of those take the coverage and pay for it themselves right now. So we don't think the ratio will be too high.
Okay, so the to be determined is in part who will want it or not. Is that
Yes,
right?
who will want it and
Okay.
whether it's affordable or not.
Right. Thank you.
Supervisor Foy?
Well, I'm not excited about doing this for April 1. I know we don't have to do this till January 1st.
Actually, we have to offer the coverage. We have to offer coverage to the group that works 60 hours or more. We just won't be penalized for
Yeah,
it.
okay, then go ask the rest of the million employers who aren't doing that, so. When they say they don't offer, and then there's also a bill in Congress now to move that to 40 hours instead of the 30 hours, as you probably know. So what are we going to do then? Are we going to take it away at that point? So if they change it to you have to offer to people at 30, what are they going to go back to 40? I guess I just don't know why we're moving forward. And then the other thing, when I think Supervisor Parks is pretty good, there is a cost to this. If somebody pays a premium, are we going to run this group separate? We're going to track claims separately? Are we going to? Because remember, the rest of the employees pay the cost of where this plan goes. It's kind of like I said about the domestic partner situation. You bring people in and you pay a premium. If we don't run it, we don't know what everybody else pays the cost. So if all of a sudden we bring in $1 million in premium, we have $4 million in claims, all next year all the costs go up, then all the other employees pick it up. How do we not penalize the rest of the people for this kind of a situation? So, I guess, the idea of picking it up, you add a bunch of people to the plan, you can easily administer that, that's a simple process. I don't think that's a big deal personally. So some of those kind of things to me when we talk about determining the cost, that gets a little bit, most board levers, we've done a research, we've done something, we know that here's some costs. Now, it's going to be hard because we don't know who can pick up. Like you said in your board letter, some of these people are under 26, they can stay on their parents. Right. And most likely they will stay on their parents because I don't want to pay 3 or 4 or 5 or whatever. But, that kind of thing. So, anyway, I guess I still got some real struggles with, what we're doing, why we're doing it this time and all that stuff. And we'll figure out how much it costs us. That's the problem. That's one of the things I asked Ms. Dursey is find out what it cost us later, and then all of a sudden it's a lot more expensive than we thought. And this whole system that we have in this county is one rate, everybody pays, and then everybody subsidizing everybody else, and that's become struggle. And from a lot of people who come up and say, why am I subsidizing families? Why am I subsidizing people? Why am I subsidizing people in the public that are not really part of the regular natural group? So.
Right. And this particular group will be age and tier rated.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, I understand, but I'm just saying there's still claims and there's still issues, and we have to pick it all up later. So.
And I imagine.
If it was run separately and that was great, that'd be a fine thing, but we don't do that. So.
Well, I would just, all right. No, I would just say, as you, exactly right. As you well know, Supervisor, these numbers are added to the plan, and then they do an actuarial study every year. They look at those numbers and they set the rates. I don't think there's any reason to believe this is a unique population set. So better to include them in the whole group. So.
Yeah, and I just want to point out, you could make the argument that this group could be subsidizing our employees too. It just depends on where the claims come from. So I don't know that we'd sit there.
No problem with that if we tracked it separately to find that out.
Right.
So it's all included in the rates,
All right. I think there have been some significant benefits from our rolling everything in together. And
That's right.
certainly I know reasonable minds can disagree on that, but that's certainly where we are. All right, so we have a motion from Supervisor Zaragoza. It's been seconded. Do we have any other comments before we vote?
No, I'll go along with what you guys want to do. That's fine. I just think there's always cost to it. So.
Thank you.
What's that? Yeah, we have, although we had a light agenda today, we have quite a bit that we need to get done in closed session. And it's good for us to have a good chunk of time to be able to move into closed session. And so we're going to go to closed session. Will we have any announcements, Mr.?
Mr. Chair, we will not have any announcements.
All right, so we'll adjourn from closed session. There will be no announcements, right? And at the crack of 10:06.
Great running of a meeting,
one portion